On a quiet morning in July 2026, in the Grand Hyderabad House in New Delhi, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. Modi greeted her warmly, calling her his little sister, using a loving Indian phrase, Choti Behen. Takaichi smiled, listening to his words through a small device that translated them into Japanese. Later, Takaichi returned the gesture, calling Modi her bigger brother. This friendly exchange, full of personal warmth, showed a special bond between the two leaders. It was a notable moment that filled the news headlines the next day, signaling a deepening friendship. But this public display of warmth was only the surface of a much bigger event. Beneath the smiles and kind words, something far more serious and impactful was taking place. Over 3 days, India and Japan signed around 120 cooperation documents. These were not small agreements. They were historic deals that could reshape how power works in the world. These agreements covered many crucial areas. They included working together on advanced artificial intelligence, AI, technologies, and even building new weapon systems together. The nations also focused on strengthening their economic security, aiming to protect their trade, rare resources, and important supply chains from problems. They agreed to work on energy, defense, and share new vital technologies. These numerous agreements outlined a detailed plan for their future together.
These two nations are seen as important middle powers on the global stage. They have strong international influence. However, both seemed worried about the current world situation. This worry led them to sign these major deals very quickly. Why were India and Japan suddenly rushing to work together on military equipment and AI projects? Why were they trying so hard to protect their national security and their resources with such urgency? This rapid move to work together was not just born from their long-standing friendship. There was a big, quiet reason behind it. An unmentioned threat brought these two nations very close, changing their plans. This hidden danger quietly reshaped the balance of power in Asia almost overnight. This story will explore that critical meeting. It will show you who these two leaders are, what specific deals they made, and uncover the invisible threat that brought them together and quietly changed the region. A very old friend. The deep friendship between India and Japan began long ago, over 1,300 years in the past. It grew from shared spiritual ideas and strong cultural ties that traveled across the seas. Buddhism, a religion that started in India, journeyed to Japan and created a lasting connection between the two nations. Many of Japan's lucky gods, known as Shichifukujin in Japanese folk religion, have roots in ancient Hindu traditions. A clear sign of this connection. In the year 752, an Indian monk helped to open one of Japan's most famous and important temples, the Todaiji Temple in Nara. India's Prime Minister Modi often speaks about Nara as a special place that shows the shared Buddhist heritage between India and Japan. The modern diplomatic relationship started much later, after the Second World War, in 1952. Over the years, this bond became increasingly strong and structured. In 2000, the two countries agreed to form a Japan-India Global Partnership. Later, in 2006, during a visit by India's Prime Minister Manmohan Singh to Japan, this partnership was upgraded to a strategic and global partnership, showing a deeper level of cooperation. The most consequential development came in 2014. This was when Shinzo Abe, Japan's prime minister and a political mentor to many leaders after him, welcomed India's Prime Minister Modi to Tokyo. During this important meeting, they elevated the relationship once more, calling it a special strategic and global partnership, a powerful label that it still holds today. The strong personal rapport between Abe and Modi was a key factor. Their connection began when Modi was chief minister of the Indian state of Gujarat and deepened during his years as prime minister. This close personal bond continued to shape the relationship even after Abe's tragic assassination in 2022, influencing the leaders who came after him. Shinzo Abe was widely known for a famous speech he gave in 2007 to the Indian Parliament, where he described India and Japan as sitting at the confluence of two seas. This phrase became a simple way to talk about linking the Indian and Pacific Oceans into one important strategic area, laying an intellectual foundation for what is now known as the Indo-Pacific concept. Following this, by 2016, the relationship had grown enough for Japan to agree to a landmark civil nuclear cooperation deal with India. This was significant because India had not signed the Global Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and Japan, having experienced atomic bombings, is very cautious about nuclear technology. The two countries also started work on a major infrastructure project, a Japanese-financed high-speed rail line connecting Mumbai and Ahmedabad, using Japan's bullet train technology, funded with a low-interest loan reportedly worth billions of dollars. By the time Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi arrived in Delhi in July 2026, the relationship had developed many ways for their governments to work together, including over 70 separate discussion groups. Despite this long, rich history and these significant projects, some experts had long considered this powerful alliance surprisingly underutilized. They believed it had much more potential, not being fully used. However, by 2026, something important had changed. A sudden spark of political urgency finally woke this sleeping relationship up. This new urgency set the stage for a dramatic shift in how the two nations would work together, driven by very recent global events. 3. The first woman leader. Sanae Takaichi did not plan to lead a country. She grew up in Nara, Japan, in a normal family, not a political one. She went to Kobe University, traveling far each day because her parents wanted her to study close to home. Many people in her political party went to very famous universities, but Sanae's background was more like that of an ordinary person. Before politics, Sanae was a television anchor. In 1993, she became a member of parliament as an independent. 3 years later, she joined the Liberal Democratic Party. Over many years, she became good at making policy and working in the party. She was a minister for internal affairs and communications. Later, she became Japan's first Minister of State for Economic Security. This job gave her important training for future big agreements. Sanae was a close friend and ally of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. She worked in his government. Her rise happened when Japan was becoming more conservative. The country worried about China's growing power and a rise in foreign visitors. This strong traditional feeling shaped her political journey. On October 21, 2025, Sanae Takaichi became Japan's first woman prime minister. This was a big milestone for Japan, a nation that often struggles with gender equality in leadership. Her time as prime minister showed interesting contradictions. She was known as a very traditional leader. She held firm traditional views on family and gender roles, often not supporting things like same-sex marriage. She openly admired Margaret Thatcher, Britain's Iron Lady, and even chose to wear blue suits often, just like her role model. Sanae aimed to become Japan's Iron Lady. Yet she was also surprisingly popular, especially with younger people. This wave of support was famously called Sanamania. Her handbags, clothing, and even stationery sold out in stores. Surprisingly, she also played drums in a college rock band. She loved heavy metal groups like Deep Purple and Iron Maiden, and sometimes sang rock anthems on live television. These hobbies showed a softer side to a politician known for her strong views on defense and immigration. Sanae's foreign policy ideas were firm and bold. She wanted to change Japan's constitution, which says Japan cannot use war. She also supported Taiwan strongly. She pushed to make Japan's army stronger and to work more closely with the United States.
These tough instincts quickly led her into a big diplomatic crisis. It was the biggest challenge of her time as leader so far. 4. The Big Meeting. The big meeting happened in New Delhi at the special place called Hyderabad House. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi with warm words. He called her his little sister, and she called him her bigger brother. This friendly greeting was more than just polite words. It showed a strong bond between the two leaders and their countries. Over 3 days, many important discussions took place. Leaders, government officials, and business owners from both nations gathered. They signed around 120 cooperation documents. These documents covered a wide range of topics, like defense, new technologies, and making their economies stronger together. Big companies from Japan also made huge promises. They pledged about $13 billion in new investments for India. These investments will help in areas like making things, manufacturing, and building new infrastructure. An interesting point about this meeting was its original plan. It was first meant to be held in Guwahati, a large city in Assam. Assam is a state in India's remote northeast. Holding the meeting there would have shown a big change in strategic focus towards that important region. However, the location was changed back to the capital, Delhi.
The official reason was logistical constraints related to Prime Minister Takaichi's schedule in Japan's parliament. This means there were difficulties in planning and organizing the trip to Assam at that specific time. Despite the change, India's northeast remained a key part of the talks. Japan has been a big helper in this region for many years. They have given billions of dollars to build roads, water systems, power plants, and healthcare. This area is important because it connects India to Southeast Asia, making a vital trade corridor. This helps both countries to reduce their reliance on single supply routes and strengthen their economic security. For instance, a new semiconductor factory and special industrial areas are being planned in Assam with Japanese support. Japan is also interested in the Northeast for another reason: its people. Japan has a shrinking and aging population, which is a demographic challenge. They see India's young and skilled workforce in the Northeast as a good fit for their labor needs, with programs already in place for language and skills training. The discussions highlighted how important this region is for the future of both nations. Even though the summit moved back to Delhi, the agreements made during the meeting will still impact India's northeast greatly. The real reasons behind the venue change, beyond just scheduling, continue to be discussed, showing the depth of planning behind these international events. Money, machines, and trust. Relying too much on just one dominant country for important global resources can be very risky. India and Japan understood this fear deeply. To counter it, they signed a bold new economic security pact. This agreement covers everything from rare earth minerals to artificial intelligence and clean energy. Both nations aim to secure their needs without heavy reliance on a single source. The Joint Declaration on Economic Security Cooperation outlined deep collaboration across 5 key sectors. These include semiconductors, critical minerals, information technology, clean energy, and pharmaceuticals. They want to build stronger, more resilient supply chains. This also means working against economic pressure, like unfair trade practices and arbitrary export limits that can disrupt supply. A top-secret priority for both governments was fixing broken medicine supply chains, a lesson from the pandemic. They pledged to explore new ways to obtain active pharmaceutical ingredients. They will also assess vulnerabilities and promote joint research for biosimilars, ensuring vital drugs are always available. The diplomatic agreement cleverly addressed certain trade issues without naming any specific nation. It raised concerns about non-market policies and arbitrary export restrictions. These phrases clearly pointed to practices used by a specific country that could harm global supply chains. This allowed them to tackle the problem directly, yet carefully. Beyond these 5 sectors, India and Japan also boosted cooperation in artificial intelligence, quantum technology, and space science. They planned joint AI research and development, along with ways to manage new AI risks. This partnership shows growing trust, with money, machines, and shared goals strengthening their security. 6. Building things together. Chapter 6 revealed a big change for Japan. For many years after the Second World War, Japan was a pacifist nation. This meant it did not sell military weapons or work with other countries to build them. This was due to its constitution and strong beliefs. However, during the Delhi summit, India and Japan announced something historic. They agreed to work together on their first ever defense project. This project is a naval radio antenna system called UNICORN, which stands for Unified Complex Radio Antenna. This agreement is very important because it shows a new direction for Japan. Prime Minister Modi said this project would start a new part of their defense partnership. It aims to make the region more peaceful and keep the seas safe. The UNICORN system will be made with Bharat Electronics, an Indian defense company. It will help strengthen the Indian Navy's power in the Bay of Bengal. Why is an antenna such a big deal? It is a sign of Japan moving away from its old rules. Japan has reviewed its 3 principles on the transfer of defense equipment and technology. These principles used to stop Japan from selling lethal weapons to other countries. Now, under Prime Minister Takaichi, Japan's defense export rules have changed. They now allow transfers of lethal weapons to 17 partner countries, including India. Experts say this change opens the door for Japan. Before, Japan mostly sold simple equipment. Now it can truly build and develop weapon systems with trusted partners. This means India can work more closely with Japan to make defense items. The two countries also agreed to do more military training together in the Indian Ocean. They will also work on keeping naval ships in good condition and making more defense equipment in India. These plans include holding more high-level meetings between their foreign and defense ministers. They also celebrated joint naval exercises, like JIMEX 25. While these actions are not officially against any specific country, many people believe they are a way for India and Japan to prepare for changes in the region. They want to be ready for a more assertive China. The unicorn antenna system is just the first step. It leaves the world wondering what other advanced military technologies these two nations might co-develop in the future. This move marks a new era for maritime power in the Bay of Bengal, changing the security picture. It shows a significant shift in global alliances. 7. The Angry Neighbor.
Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi made controversial comments in November 2025. She spoke to Japan's parliament about Taiwan. Takaichi said that if China attacked Taiwan, it could be a serious existential crisis for Japan. This meant Japan might get involved in a war. China became extremely angry. Its Ministry of National Defense warned Japan of a crushing defeat if it tried to help Taiwan. China's foreign ministry said these remarks had severely hurt the feelings of the Chinese people. However, Takaichi did not take back her comments. She said they were already part of Japan's rules. The fallout from her statements was swift and lasted for many months. China quickly warned its citizens not to travel to Japan. It also stopped buying seafood from Japan and cut some airplane flights and cultural exchanges. More importantly, starting in January 2026, China began to use its power over rare earth minerals. These are special metals needed for things like electric car batteries and fighter jets. China mines about 70% of the world's rare earth minerals. By stopping these exports, China aimed to hurt Japan's ability to make defense products. This was a brutal 8-month trade war. China also created blacklists for Japanese companies and punished Japanese politicians. The tension was still high when Takaichi visited Delhi. China's Coast Guard even ordered a Japanese ship to stop working near the disputed Senkaku Islands.
Given all this anger and economic retaliation against Japan, China's reaction to the Delhi summit was surprising. India and Japan had just signed many agreements. These agreements were designed to make them less dependent on China for important resources and technology. Yet Beijing did not make a big public fuss or start a strong campaign in its state media. China's foreign ministry spokesperson only gave a short comment. He said that countries should work together to build trust and not target any other nation. Some experts saw this quiet reaction as a smart calculation by China. If Beijing had made the Delhi summit a huge news story, it would have shown that a circle of enemies was being built around China, and India, a country China prefers to be friends with, was part of it. China would rather try to keep India friendly than fight it openly. Even so, the joint statement from India and Japan showed clear worries. They spoke about maritime security in the East and South China Seas, and said they opposed one country changing things by itself. Japan's national security advisor also said his country was suffering from the economic weaponization and had trouble getting critical minerals from a neighbor. This clearly pointed to China, even without saying its name. The pattern was clear. India and Japan were investing in new ways to get resources. They no longer fully trusted China's supply chain. They did this while carefully avoiding the word China in their official papers. 8. What happens next? After the important meetings, India and Japan looked to the future with clear plans. A key part of these plans involved the Quad Group, which includes the United States and Australia. Both leaders said they would work for an early meeting of the Quad leaders. However, there was some uncertainty about when this would actually happen, especially with the current U.S. President, Donald Trump. This situation meant that the other 3 Quad members, India, Japan, and Australia, needed to strengthen their ties even more. The 2 countries also planned to improve their trade rules. India suggested making their current trade agreement, called the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, much stronger. This was because global trade had changed a lot since it was first signed. Japan agreed to consider this important review. Both nations also looked forward to 2027, which will be a very special year. It will mark 75 years since India and Japan officially started diplomatic relations. They hope to use this anniversary to bring their peoples closer through culture, tourism, and creative industries. There were clear next steps to take. India and Japan would hold another 2+2 meeting where their foreign and defense ministers would talk. This important discussion would happen in Tokyo before the end of 2026.
Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi also invited Prime Minister Modi to visit Japan soon. This would continue their regular visits, which have been a key part of their relationship for many years. However, the true test for all these 120 agreements will come later. Will bureaucratic delays, where official processes slow things down, become a problem? History shows that big plans can sometimes take a long time to become real, like the high-speed rail project. The world also has shifting global politics, which can make things very difficult. For example, the trade policies of countries like the United States can change. Also, the prices of basic goods like oil or food, known as commodity prices, can change suddenly. What if the relationship between Japan and its angry neighbor becomes even worse? Such issues could take Japan's attention and resources away from this new alliance. Will this new partnership fall apart before it even truly begins? Prime Minister Takaichi clearly stated that India and Japan are trusted partners who share a strong plan for the future. She spoke about wanting a free and open Indo-Pacific. This means they want the region to be open for all nations, not controlled by just one. So, was this big summit truly about a deep friendship between 2 powerful nations? Or was it mostly a story of a shared deep fear of the future? Perhaps it was a mix of both. What do you think is the strongest reason these 2 nations came together?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world.